Demetri? Well, we don't know his last name yet, do we? Demetri has certainly had an interesting arc from Season 1 to Season 3. He has gone from the bully to learning how to stand up for himself and to finally dating his dream girl. Like the other major Miyagi-Do characters, Demetri gets a lot of hate, and while his character was annoying at times, he's actually more relatable than you think. This is my character analysis, theory, and opinion on why he's a relatable character, including his rivalry with Hawk, his loyalty to Hawk and others, and more. Let's recap with what we know about Demetri so far. Demetri attends West Valley High School with his longtime childhood friend Eli Moskowitz. They both befriend new student Miguel Diaz, who is training with Cobra Kai under Johnny Lawrence. Due to he and Eli being nerdy and social outcasts, Demetri is noted to be very neurotic and is also bullied by Kyler and his gang, who also bully Miguel. Demetri refuses and is very unsure of joining Cobra Kai, but Eli manages to convince him to try it out after Miguel's fight with Kyler goes viral. As Johnny is picking on Eli for his facial deformity, Demetri stands up to him and begins oversimplifying Johnny's teachings, being very analytical to Johnny's approach to teaching the class. Johnny responds by making an example out of Demetri, leading him to quit. Despite no longer being a student, Demetri still maintains its friendship with Miguel and Eli, now known as Hawk at school. Demetri is very hesitant and almost jealous of Hawk's transformation at times, especially seen during the tournament and the party, but also is curious about karate working for him in the same way that it does for Hawk, which does happen in a later season. After the tournament, Demetri is seen celebrating with Hawk, Moon, and Aisha. When Demetri reminds Hawk of the coding competition he won in their nickname, Hawk tells him,
"Pull it with the nerd shit, huh?"
surprising Demetri and slowly planting the seed into their eventual rivalry. Demetri is seen attending Valley Fest and witnessing the Miyagi-Do demonstration, but when Cobra Kai crashes the festival, Hawk asks him to take part of it by holding a board that Hawk can break. This leads to Demetri joining Cobra Kai and meeting Kreese. Demetri begins to ask if he can approach Cobra Kai in a flag football type of training because of his issues with personal space, but begins to invade Kreese's personal space, causing Kreese to assault Demetri. When Demetri tries to explain to Hawk what happened, Hawk tells him to toughen up and ignores it. This also leads Miguel to confront Johnny about Kreese not being who he says he is. Demetri finds his way to Miyagi-Do and joins the dojo, quickly deducing that the chores will help him with muscle memory, but also starts to annoy Daniel because of his constant complaining. Demetri begins to explain to Daniel his issues with his best friend and that he wants to prove he can fight back, reminding him of a similar situation back in the 80s. Demetri is confronted at the mall by Hawk and his gang for leaving a bad Yelp review on the Cobra Kai dojo. Demetri tries to defend himself, but due to his lack of skill and Hawk's aggressiveness, Demetri decides to escape back to the food court where Sam and Robbie were, but is cornered. However, Sam and Robbie intervene and defeat the Cobra Kai gang. Back to the LaRusso household, Daniel finally gets through to Demetri that anyone can be the hero and begins to detail his lessons much more to help Demetri understand karate, much like Mr. Miyagi used chores to help teach Daniel. After Hawk and others vandalize the dojo, Daniel confronts Johnny at the dojo the next day. Although Johnny had no idea it was Kreese who ordered the vandalism, Daniel is able to snag some new students that show up at the dojo not too long after, including Chris, a reluctant ally of Hawk who was at the mall. Although tensions escalate between the former Cobra Kai members and the first 3 Miyagi-Do students, Daniel recounts the time where he was in Cobra Kai and how Mr. Miyagi gave him a second chance. This leads to Demetri and Chris to work together and not only patch up their differences, but to cause them to be good friends later down the line. During Kangekyo, Demetri learns to finally anticipate and defend, well, briefly. Before school starts, Miyagi-Do and Cobra Kai both attend Moon's party, who wants to put a stop to all the fighting. This works to an extent, but soon begins to backfire. Demetri tries to console Hawk with Moon moving on and they briefly bond over Doctor Who, but Hawk pours a beer on his head in response. Fed up with Hawk's antics throughout the summer, Demetri brutally brings the attention to the whole party about Hawk's bedwetting problems, along with other softer qualities that were unknown to others. A huge fight is about to erupt until the cops show up, forcing everyone to flee. Tori starts a fight with Sam due to her witnessing that she and Miguel kissed, which soon involves both Cobra Kai and Miyagi-Do in an all-out war. Although Demetri tries to get the help of a teacher at first, Mr. Palmer refuses and this leads to Hawk chasing Demetri throughout the school. When Hawk finally catches up to him, Demetri takes a kick and a punch at first until his muscle memory finally kicks in and he's able to defeat Hawk. Because of the school fight, and also Miguel being injured by Robbie, security increases at the school and this also leads to a rule of no physical contact between students of any kind. Demetri's popularity rises due to him defeating Hawk, and also because the students now know about Hawk's bedwetting problems. Demetri not only helps with Miguel's fundraiser, but also visits Miguel while he is in a coma. Due to Cobra Kai stealing the money raised and also beating up Nathaniel, Sam decides to teach class while Daniel is in Japan. When showing off his science project to Yasmin and Moon, Hawk begins to grow jealous of Demetri and destroys the project with the soccer ball. Before Sam and Demetri can face off with Cobra Kai, Counselor Blatt intervenes and takes Hawk's side while issuing a warning to Sam. Miyagi-Do begins to get payback during the soccer game by being aggressive with their physicality. However, because Cobra Kai also begins to do the same, they are all sent to principal's office, resulting in Miyagi-Do receiving detention, but not Cobra Kai because of Hawk's persuasiveness. When Chris tells Sam about Cobra Kai harassing him at work, Sam comes up with the idea to ambush them in the laser tag arena. Although this works at first, Sam is still traumatized by her last encounter with Tori. This leads her to have a panic attack and is unable to stop Hawk from breaking Demetri's arm. When Miguel returns to school and Demetri tells him about this leads to Miguel confronting Hawk about his actions and also causes him to witness Kyler bullying Demetri. Demetri's cast gets amended by Yasmin, who now understands the pain of being bullied due to her front wedgie from season 1. This also leads to Demetri dating Yasmin, much to the surprise of Miguel and Sam. Although Demetri is reluctant along with the rest of Miyagi-Do to form an alliance with Johnny's students in Eagle Fang, Demetri is able to rally the troops and starts to organize the formation of the 2 dojos. However, Cobra Kai under Kreese's orders invades the house and begins a rumble at the party. Demetri is cornered by Doug and another student, but thanks to Hawk, he is saved from another broken arm. Hawk apologizes, to which Demetri forgives and agrees to finish the fight against Cobra Kai. With their perfect blend of offense and defense, they begin to turn the tide. At the end, he swears to Tori that he will make sure Hawk won't have to watch his back, and goes on to train under Johnny and Daniel. Now, before we get to why Demetri is relatable, I do want to address the elephant in the room, and that is Demetri's rivalry with Hawk. Like many of the other rivalries in the show, no one side was in the right as both sides made mistakes. I covered how Hawk was a bully but redeemed himself in my previous video, so now we will be examining Demetri's side of the equation. I do see others say that Demetri never cared about Hawk or that he shouldn't have reacted the way he did, but you have to remember, even before they were rivals, Demetri was the only one who stood up for Eli when Johnny was addressing him as lip. Demetri did overstep his boundaries with Johnny, who was trying to teach, but prior to his transformation, Eli didn't talk much because of his own self-esteem, as he was a man of few words and Demetri was the mouthy one. When Demetri was assaulted by Kreese, he only wrote the Yelp review because confiding in his best friend didn't work. This was the wedge that drove Hawk and Demetri to become rivals, along with Demetri joining Miyagi-Do. One of the major points about Demetri that gets brought up a lot is his speech about Hawk's personal bedwetting habit. Before that, Demetri tried to be civil and cordial with Hawk, but Hawk decided to pour beer on Demetri's head for no reason unprovoked. I'm not saying what Demetri did is justified. I will, however, say it is the reason that at this point Demetri is fed up with his best friend bullying him and decided to fight back in a smart way, by taking him to the barbecue. This then leads to Hawk wanting to jump him right then and there, but has to wait until school to do so when the cops show up. That takes us to his fight with Hawk, and despite what you may think, Demetri didn't get lucky. He learned to actually anticipate and defend with his muscle memory, very similar to how Daniel learned karate in the first movie. Let's break the fight down. Hawk catches up to Demetri and gives him a kick to the face. Hawk lands a punch on the face. The third punch, Demetri blocks out a reflex. Demetri then blocks the 3 punches that Hawk gives him, and Hawk shoves him again. It's at this point that Hawk is attacking out of blind rage and not caring to mix it up, which works to Demetri's favor. Hawk tries to switch it up with a kick, but this again is blocked by Demetri. Hawk telegraphs his punch and lunges forward, leading Demetri to block it, spin Hawk around, and put him down with a kick for the count into the trophy case. Outside of a brief run-in at the beginning of the season, Demetri and Hawk really don't have any major interaction until Hawk decides to smash Demetri's project, who was jealous that he had the intention of mooning Yasmin. When Sam advises to try to get payback during the soccer game, Demetri does a low tactic by messing with Hawk's head and sweeping him, but again, this was in retaliation for Hawk destroying his project unprovoked. Again, not justification, just the reason. At the arcade, Hawk is the one that breaks Demetri's arm, however we can see that Hawk is very conflicted by it and regrets it soon after, which eventually leads to his redemption. Despite what you may think, there are qualities that Demetri possesses that make him relatable. One key point to this is that Hawk and Demetri are 2 sides of the same coin. Both are nerds and social outcasts who stick to each other as far as friendship. When they both evolve through the seasons, they are split into 2 aspects. Hawk represents the fantasy portion, and anybody who has ever been an outcast or a nerd knows what I mean when I say this. Hawk represents the fantasy because he is the result of undergoing that radical transformation to become extremely popular, and also gets one of the most popular girls in school. Hawk quickly grows in skill and gets revenge on the people that once bullied him. He flipped the script to make things work his way. He is everything that we want to be. Demetri, on the other hand, snaps us back to reality. He has low self-esteem and self-confidence in himself and has to use his intelligence to get by. He wants a girl who is out of his league and is trying to do what he can to fit in, but fails in doing so. He is everything that we are. However, Demetri does undergo a transformation in season 2 and 3, although it is more realistic and gradual. He's unable to defend himself right away, but is inspired by his friends to do better. Miguel winning the All Valley is the very first time that Demetri reconsiders rejoining Cobra Kai. Cobra Kai's performance at Valley Fest and Demetri involving himself in the show is what gets him to finally take action and rejoin the dojo until Kreese hits him. Sam and Robbie also saving him at the mall is what eventually inspires him to be better as well, though he is not confident in himself at first. It is through his training that he's finally able to gain some confidence, stand up for himself, and become more assertive as seen in Season 3. In fact, after the school fight, Demetri also grows popular and even has his dream girl Yasmin begin to not only take an interest in him, but also date him. This is a parallel of what happened in Season 1, where Yasmin was stuck up and wanted nothing to do with anybody outside of Moon and Sam, but it's when she is the one being picked on that she understands the pain she has caused others. Demetri dating Yasmin and becoming popular is the opposite of Hawk in Season 3, as people don't take him seriously because of him not only wetting his bed, but being knocked out by Demetri. Even after all of this, in the end Demetri forgives Hawk because he knew that his friend was being corrupted. If you think back to the party in Season 2, Demetri didn't even bring up the mall incident at all, and instead tried to bring out his friend that he once knew by talking about Doctor Who. Demetri pointed out that because of Hawk's attitude is why Moon broke up with him, and he advised Hawk to move on. This is key because the party happens after Daniel recruits new Miyagi-Do students, teaching them about forgiveness and how Cobra Kai can corrupt individuals. It doesn't matter who anyone is before they step into this dojo, what matters now today is that we are all Miyagi-Do. This lesson allows Demetri to finally put aside his differences with Chris, and is why he approached Hawk in a friendly manner at the party. This lesson also carried over into Season 3, even after having his best friend break his arm, Demetri shows compassion and the binary brothers are reunited. He knew all along that deep down, Eli was still inside Hawk and was still his friend. Another part of this is that Demetri is loyal to his friends, even if they are at odds. In Season 1 and part of Season 2, he still maintained his friendship with Miguel and Hawk when they joined Cobra Kai. Even though Sam could have stopped Demetri's arm from being broken, he still doesn't hold it against her and he remains loyal to her. Chris also becomes loyal to Demetri, standing up to Hawk at the party alongside Robbie when they threaten to jump him. The story hits home because I was once Demetri. I was an outcast who was bullied because of the way I looked, because of my interests, because of my intelligence, and I desired to be popular. I wanted to get back at people so bad and do whatever I could to fit in. It took me a long time to learn that popularity in high school doesn't last forever, and that the real people who like you for who you are will gravitate towards you and be by your side. You also can't be afraid of who you are. If people don't understand that or dislike that, then that's their loss. You also can't let people dictate who you are either or tell you what you can or can't do. If I would have realized this back then, I would have saved myself a lot of trouble. Here are my final thoughts on Demetri and what we could see from him in the future seasons. Demetri's defense has vastly improved over time, especially considering how low in skill he was in the beginning. He finally learns to anticipate Hawk's attacks and manages to defend and avoid all strikes except for one towards him in the beginning of the Christmas fight, and it's not until he is cornered by two people that he starts to take damage. With Johnny's tutelage, he can improve his speed even more by applying it both to offense and defense. Demetri's intelligence when applied can also be used to further his karate game even more, finding the weak spots in his opponents and striking at the right time, which can make him a great counterfighter like Daniel. With Hawk now joining the team, Demetri can learn how to improve his offensive game and do more damage with his striking power. There could be trouble, however, as Demetri still has to recover from his arm being broken, much like Miguel not being 100% either due to just relearning how to walk. If their weaknesses are exploited, it can lead them to being critically injured, leaving Sam and Hawk to carry the team. Either way, Season 4 is bound to be an exciting season with the teams facing off at the All Valley, and only time will tell which team will come out on top. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. What characters do you relate to? If you enjoyed the video, consider sharing it with your friends, giving it a like, commenting, and subscribing, as these all help my channel grow. Thanks for watching, stay beautiful, stay awesome, and we'll catch you around next time.